If you are at everyone's everything, when do you have time for you? Welcome back to the Humaning Well podcast. This is Amber Cabral. Thank you for joining me today. Whew, what a season, right? This year is a lot and very surprising, amazing in some ways, but a lot. So first, I just want to say, if you're new to this podcast and you found me because of YouTube, I had a video go sort of viral on You Can Have Whatever You Want. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the episode enough to go explore other episodes. And just a point of note, I'm a facilitator at heart. So I am always trying to teach and resource and simplify things that are complex so that we can all human better together. So at the very least, do take the time to go listen to all the episodes in the capsule that you were listening to, which is called the Getting Grounded capsule. The episodes that are included in that capsule are episodes 22 through 26. That way you can really work on having whatever it is that you want, right? And when you bump up against something that makes that a little hard, you'll have some tools to help you kind of work through those obstacles. Humaning well, you might not know what that means. So it's a resilience framework. It's aimed at giving you resilience, helping you think about having resilience. And when I say resilience, I just want to be clear that it isn't about just taking it on the chin and shouldering all the difficulty. It's more like, you have what you need to recover when things get tough. It's not to say you won't have hard times, but when you do, you can navigate through them. And the purpose of this resilience framework is to essentially have you think critically about the areas where if you focus on them, you can human better. So I have 4 pillars in the Humaning Well resilience framework, and that is health, wealth, relationships, and growth. And I like to remind people that specifically when it comes to the wealth pillar, it's not just about money. Money matters, but it's not just about money. It's other things that contribute to your wealth, resources, like your time or your energy. And time is a really big one because it is one of those things that people don't really realize that they are letting slip away. But the fact is, if you don't have command of your time, you can never really be successful because everyone is taking your time but you. And so today's episode is actually about time management, at least the part of time management that I think might be helpful, because time management is a huge topic. And so I'm just going to try to give you a little sliver of some of that. Now, I'll be honest with you. I am outstanding with time. Outstanding. Okay. Having command of my time allows me to show up as a good friend. So as an example, this week I had a girlfriend who had surgery who I wanted to go spend some time with and just keep her company for a little bit. I was able to pop over there in the middle of the day and sit for 3 hours. I am a busy woman. 3 hours is a lot, but I could find that 3 hours because I manage my time well and I know how I can shift to make that happen. Having command of my time is also what has made me a successful person, a successful businesswoman. For example, I know what time frames to commit to clients for deliverables. And if I happen to need more time, because I do monitor my time well and manage my time well, I know well in advance if I'm going to need to shift a deadline, and then I can let people know so they can shift, right? So we're giving each other the benefit of being able to adjust because we're being mindful about the time. Being good at time management also helps me human better in general because I now know how to work in time for movement and playing. I've been very honest over this pod that movement has been a priority for me. And that's not to say I've done it perfectly, but every week there is some movement. Every week I'm practicing going to bed on time. Every week I'm trying to get in all my water, right? And a lot of that happening has to do with me being intentional about my time. And being intentional about my time means that I have to have command and control and decision-making over that thing that belongs to me, which is my time. It also helps me because I can get a heads up when I know I'm going to have an intense week. I can look at a week and go, oh, this week has a lot going on and I'm going to be a little bit stretched. So I can call in my support system, in the ways that I'm going to need help to get through that week. Candidly, when I wrote my first book, Allies and Advocates, I wrote it in 14 days. Okay, that's over 40,000 words in 14 days. But it's because I had command of my time. So if you want to be successful, whether that's as a friend, as a partner, as a parent, as a business person, as an investor, even as an employee, having control of your time is critically important. Okay. You can't be at the mercy of everybody and their things. You got to have control over your own time. And I also know from my coaching clients, because I coach as well, that time management is one of the most consistent obstacles that people struggle with. So when folks come to me and we go through our initial breakdowns, I usually hear something is up with time. All right. People don't think they have it. They're giving it away in ways they don't realize. And so I'm going to try in this episode to help you hopefully start breaking some old patterns. And even if you're a person who's pretty good with your time, hopefully I'll give you something that, is worth you listening to, or a good reminder or nudge to help you think about your time a little bit differently. I'm going to give you 5 basic tips. Basic is relative. Basic is relative. For some of you, these will feel really hard. To me, these are very basic, but these are tips that I use to help me stay in control of my time. And why? Because honestly, the wellness you're seeking, the rest you're craving, the focus you want, the movement your body isn't getting, the boundaries you're struggling to implement, all that stuff is connected to time. And so wherever you are with your ability to manage your time, ideally, there's something in this list of 5 that will be helpful for you being better at it. Okay. And then also, depending on what type of life you live, you may not do all of these. Some of them may not work for you. Others you might need more time to work on, right? So take what you need from the list. I'm just going to pick 5 that I think most people will at least get something from. Okay. All right. First, you have to decide, like purposely in your body, you have to decide that you want to be more efficient with your time. First step. If you notice, a lot of my first steps start with you, okay? You gotta decide that you want to be more effective and efficient with your time. If you don't mind floating from thing to thing and having, to rush at various times because you didn't prepare for something, or something pops up last minute and you don't know how you can shift, or you have to drop a ball. If you are good with that, you don't have to do any of this. But if you're not good with that, you got to start by making the commitment that you want to be better. Okay? Because factually, as we become more connected and communication moves at a faster pace, staying organized, particularly about your time, is even more imperative. And we're no longer in the days where we only need to take care of like one piece of business in a day. It's just not like that. Many of us are connecting globally at work. We're handling business online. We're planning friend and family time over like phone and video calls. And, like if you want to be the most efficient, we've got to be intentional about looking at the things that we need to do and planning them on our calendar. I said the C word, calendar, so they get done in an orderly and efficient way. And I'm going to talk about calendars too, but the first thing you got to do is commit, right? You have to want that for yourself. It has to matter to you. I have tried to encourage many a soul to be more intentional about their time, to save them time, to save them money, to save them effort, but it only ever works when the person actually wants to do it. Okay, because there is a learning curve and it can be a little difficult. So you gotta want to do it. So that's number 1. If you are a person who has historically been at the mercy of time, okay, whatever shows up you respond to, and your life is a little chaotic because of it, like even when your house is clean, it just means you've hidden everything in the closet type of vibes. If you want to be better than that, you got to make the decision. Okay, first thing. Second thing, use your calendar. Use the calendar that's on your phone. If you are a Gmail user, use the calendar that comes with Gmail. It's the one that I use. Use the calendar on your phone. You don't have to buy anything new. You don't need any new software. There is somewhere you can get a calendar app free. The Apple Calendar, if you're an Apple phone user, use the calendar on your phone. I know that seems super obvious for those of you who are doing it, but I don't just mean put things on there that you need to attend, like your doctor's appointments or work meetings, okay? I mean, use your calendar for everything. Everything. Let it be your guide on what you need to do with your time each day. For me, that means I put my whole day on my calendar. So I'm talking like super granular, like wake up, make breakfast, go to the gym. I include the drive time for going to and from the gym, shower, heading into work, meeting with my team, working on XYZ project or idea. I make sure I put 10-minute walking breaks in, which really take me 15 minutes because I've got to get myself together and out of the building. I put everything. I am detailed. Living life, just regular living life takes time. Regular life living takes time. And I like being honest about where I am using my time. So for example, I always add in when I am going to bleach my hair, right? I put that on my calendar. Why? Because it takes a couple of hours to get it to the color that I like. And I like it to be fresh right before I travel, right? Especially if I'm going somewhere and I know I want to look good or I'm going to be pictured, taking photos or whatever. So honestly, that's part of why I'm in a hat today. Okay. I want to bleach my hair fresh for my vacation next week. But if I'm not careful about putting that on my calendar, what happens is the closer we get and I start thinking about things I need, I'm also like, oh my gosh, when am I going to bleach my hair? And I may not have enough time because it does take time, right? I don't want to get to my vacation and then decide, oh my gosh, I want to bleach my hair and I have to figure out how to bleach it in the hotel. Having it on my calendar helps me be prepared for travel. I also schedule time for other things like playing with Legos. By the way, I take Legos on the plane, so that's also counts because I believe in playing on the plane, not working on the plane. But I schedule that playtime, right? Because I'm high achieving. And so if I want to human better and get playtime in, I have to put it on my calendar, or I will work myself into a literal humpback position because I'll sit at my laptop all day instead of giving my body brain connection, the stuff it needs, right? That mind body connection is important. Using your hands, doing activities like puzzles, like reading an actual book, like building Legos, builds that mind body connection. And so I have to schedule that because otherwise I will work. I like working, okay? I work well. So that's what'll happen. Now, the other part to using your calendar is not to see your days as a to-do list necessarily. I like to see it as more like a real-time snapshot of like what's going on. So like what has happened and also what needs to happen. So let's say I block 2 hours because it takes me about 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half to write a podcast episode. So like this episode took me about 2 hours to write, but sometimes it's longer. Like sometimes I'm really struggling to break a topic down. And so it takes me like 3 hours. And so even though I blocked 2 hours to write the episode, if it takes me 3, I stretch that time down. Even though it's in the past, I stretch that time down because I also know that there was something in that 1 hour that I thought I was going to get done that I didn't get done. Okay. The other thing is if I go look at my calendar when I hit that 2 hour mark that I scheduled for my podcast script writing, and I realize I have something I have to do, like I got to go to a meeting or I got to head somewhere or whatever. Well, now I got to figure out where I'm going to get that extra hour in so I can look and see where that is instead of getting up like, oh my God, I thought I was going to finish that and I didn't. And now I'm behind. And how am I going to, I don't have to go through that. All right. I can shuffle it around. So if I have something else that needs planning or if I need to move it to a different place, I can do that. All right. I can shift it to another time because, this took longer than I thought. And I like to see that. Another reason I like to see that is it gives me a good snapshot of like reality, right? Because if consistently I'm blocking an hour and a half to write the podcast and it takes me 2 hours, clearly I need to change my pattern. Okay. Same thing happens. This week I planned a friend lunch date for 2 hours. It went a little shorter. We were only together for an hour and a half. I update that too. They gave me 30 extra minutes. I get to decide what I'm going to do with that unexpected time. Sometimes it's, you know what? I needed to make a phone call that I was going to wait till the end of the day for. I'm going to do that now instead. Other times I take that unexpected open time and do nothing. And that's okay. All right. I'm going to talk about not overscheduling yourself because sometimes we need the space, right? You need the space. What I really love about taking this approach where like my calendar is a real-time picture of what has happened or what I have planned to happen is that, I get a real good sense of what I actually got done when I look back at the end of the week, where I spent my time, and if I consistently scheduled myself too tight for things. It gives me a chance to then say, okay, how do I want to operate around these things going forward? Now, I know a lot of you may use a calendar for work, but not use a calendar for home. I want you to think about the ways you can maybe bring some of those like work scheduling skills that matter so much to making your job day work so smoothly to the rest of your life. It's a skill. Okay, so that same application that you're using to make sure that your workday is like not too much and not too overwhelming and you know where to be, like you don't keep a running list of the things you have to do in your brain, they're on your calendar at work. Do that in your real life, all right? Practice that same thing in your real life. You get to, in your real life, also experience that kind of efficiency. That moves us to the third thing that we need to do if we are trying to practice better time management. Third thing, remember you can't do everything. Just because it's organized, just because you squeezed it in, doesn't mean you're going to get to do everything. I like to make upfront decisions about what I am willing to part with. For example, I am not a TV or movie watcher. Why? Because more often than not, I realized that I would sit and I would give time to a television show or I would give time to a movie, and then I would not feel like it was worth the time. Like I would ultimately be like, well, I sat here for 2.5 hours and I don't even feel like I really enjoyed it that much. So TV and movies are not necessarily my thing. Now there are exceptions. I went to the movies last night with my mentee, right? I didn't love the movie. I could have skipped it, but I valued spending time with her, right? So generally speaking, if it's on TV, I haven't seen it. I just haven't. I use my TV time for something I know that I'm going to enjoy. I prefer books. I'm going to read. I also listen to a lot of podcasts. So I prefer podcasts over TV. I don't have to also watch TV. I don't have to watch TV and watch movies and read books. And I don't have to do that. I pick the things that I like. Another example, I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends. Someone recently teased me that like, all of your friends think that you are their best friend. And I'm like, because I'm a good friend. Okay. But factually, I might be your friend, but I'm not going to everyone's birthday. I'm not going to everyone's everything. I'm not going to everyone's baby shower. I'm going probably to no one's baby shower. I just generally don't do baby showers. I'm not going on your group trip. I don't want to trip with everybody. All right. I may not be at every kickback. Okay. I'm going to pick the things that I want to go to. I won't be at all of it. You are still my friend. I still love you. And my friends know that. They also know that when I come, it was an intentional choice and I am glad to spend my time with them. I don't have to be at everything. I don't have to do everything. Some stuff I send my regards and a gift and I move along. If you are at everyone's everything, when do you have time for you? So for those of you who feel stretched, when do you have time for you? If you at everybody else's everything, when are you at your things? I think Michelle Obama is a good example of this. I feel like she's in this season right now where you're seeing her in more casual spaces. And let's just be clear, the woman is brilliant, okay? But her life was being there for everything her husband did. And then she started missing stuff and people were like, oh my God, what's going on? Are they getting divorced? Like something must be up. And when she was asked about it, she just flat out was like, yeah, I want to do more for myself, which means I don't have to be at his everything. He is an adult. I don't have to be there. Imagine making that decision a decade or more ahead of when she did. This woman is like on the back end of her life, right? Still a wonderful life, right? But she is definitely over midlife. She's like at the end of midlife, heading into elder life, right? And she's just now making the decision to make choices for herself. How much time are you giving yourself for your own goals and dreams today, instead of giving your time to everyone else? Think about that. Leads me to number 4. This is a big one, but I swear by it. And some of y'all are going to think I am bonkers, but just hear me out. Okay. Stop living your life day to day and lay out your life for at least a year. I know it sounds insane, but hear me out. Okay. When you can see the whole year, it is easier to get things that are essential to your humaning well. It is easier to get to those things. It is easier to plan it out. So here's what that looks like for me. And you can do this now, but I usually do it at the end of the year. At the end of each year, I plan all of the following year. I start by going month by month, so January through December, and put in all the things I know that I need time for. Like I know I take a week off for my birthday. I know I do not like that top of the year rush in January where everybody's back to work and they're like, I'm off. I'm unavailable. I can't do that. It freaks me out. So I don't. So I block that off as break. I also take vacation time at the same time in the summer every year. So I block that. I block the dates that I know I want to do public facing courses. So I recently did a pay what you can course. I usually go through and block one day a quarter to be able to do that. I block off any other time I think I need. So if I happen to look at my calendar and see what's like 3 months where I don't even have like a day or there's no holidays or anything in there. I may block off a couple days just so I get some downtime. I'll block off the holidays that matter to me. I'll go look and see what wedding invitations do I have or do I know I'm expecting, because people know I'm responsible with my time. People will tell me about events way in advance. Like they're like, oh, Amber, I know how you are about your time. I'm going to have a wine art thing in April. So I could put it on my calendar because they want me there, right? So they'll make sure that I know about it. I go put all those things in, big events, weddings, all that stuff that I know I have. I put that on my calendar. My God kid stuff that I want to be at, I put that on the calendar. Kids get a schedule like at the top of the year. You know what I mean? Hey, when is the play? When is the, gymnastics tournament? Whatever. Tell me. I will put what I can attend on my calendar. I mean, you would honestly be really surprised how much you can plan for if you look at the year instead of looking day to day or week to week. And if you have kids, put their stuff on there too. Okay, so that's the first thing, is put everything on there. Once I have everything that I know I have dates for on there, I start planning where to put other things that I know I need to get done, but may not yet have specific dates. So for example, I am writing a third book. Writing time has to be scheduled, has to be intentional. I stick my writing time out there in pockets too, so it doesn't have to feel like it's too intense. Like I'm not doing it at a time when everything is going on. I also have a good idea, like the seasonality of my business. So I don't put it in the season where I'm likely to be the most busy. My dentist happens to also live in a different state than I do. That means I have to travel to see her when I want to go get dental care. I plan to travel for that. And I usually plan to stay the weekend so I can see the friends who live in that area, because I used to live there as well. And so that also goes on my calendar. Once I have everything that I feel like I can think of on there, stuff that's like, this is the date, and stuff that I can like put in the pockets I want, I start to scan for any issues. Like, are there two events that are on the same day or too close to each other where they're in different states and I'm going to have an intense travel situation? And then I make a decision about what I can shift. What's great about this approach is you can see far out enough that you can plan to adjust well in advance for whatever you need to, and you can notify whoever needs to know. Your base level, you're starting from prepared, right? I know what my year looks like. I also find having the year laid out helps me. I get cheaper airline tickets. I get better hotel rates. Now I'm traveling last minute a lot of times for, business travel, but for my personal travel, coming out of my personal budget, I get to book at a lower rate because I'm usually ahead of the curve, right? And so that's a nice little perk as well. Lay your year out, the whole year. I lay out the whole year. If it's an event I want to go to Art Basel this year, time is blocked, right? Because that way I am more likely to get that thing that I want, because I won't accidentally schedule something and go, oh man, I really want to do that, but I forgot to even look it up. Already laid out. Fifth and final tip, make sure that as you are building your schedule, you give yourself some space, like room in the schedule. Everything cannot be back to back every day of every week. Life happens. So the thing that you thought could take you 2 hours might take you 2 days. Sometimes someone needs to reschedule a meeting last minute. I had a client message me like 10 o'clock at night this week and say, hey, is there any chance we can move our 10 o'clock to 9:30? And I was like, no, I can't do that. But here's some other options. And we were able to work it out. You get flex time when you make room for flexibility. You get an incredible opportunity that pops up. You can flex, okay? Or even if something that's just urgent like happens, right? And you need to give your time to that. You have room to flex. Every minute of every hour does not have to be scheduled. So for me, while I might be up at 7 a.m. every day and down mostly at like 11, 12 o'clock every other day, my rule for planning my day is I'm going to go for one big task, which is something that takes me 2+ hours, like scripting out this podcast, for example, or building an outline for a client session takes me a good chunk of time. 2 medium tasks. So 2 medium tasks would be 30 minutes to an hour each. So like folding my laundry or reviewing a document that a team member needs me to look over and approve might take me about 30 minutes. And then I have 3 small tasks. So 15, 30 minutes would be a small task to me. So making a phone call to book an appointment, making sure that I respond to a message that I wanted to give a little bit of intentional thought to, 15, 30-minute activities, right? I do 3 of those. So 1 big task, 2+ hours, 2 medium tasks, 30 minutes to an hour, 3 small tasks, 15, 30 minutes. And even if it all goes according to plan, I have breathing room. I put time blocks in there. Science says that we only can work for 90 to 120 minutes in like a focused state. So I plan breaks that happen every so often to align to that. Every 2 hours, every 2.5 hours, boom, I put a 30-minute, 15-minute break in there. I don't pack my schedule wall to wall. I build in open space in between meetings, in between tasks, at the top and the bottom of the day. And that flex time is how I human well. It's not wasted time. It's me making sure that I have the capacity that I need, because resilience needs capacity. And that lets me show up fully. It helps me to be present. It helps me to avoid burning out because I'm trying to like hit this super tight schedule. Flex time helps me handle what I couldn't necessarily plan for, like something popping up, without blowing my whole week, right? And by the way, you'll still get a week that'll get blown. Okay, like that's still gonna happen, but it'll probably happen much less than it does like now, and you won't freak out about it because you will have time baked in for the following week where you can flex and adjust. A few other ways you can avoid overscheduling or like not building in the flexibility that you need, block 30 minutes after big meetings to decompress. If you know you've got an intense, like sometimes we can't get away from those 4-hour intense meetings, put 30 minutes in there to decompress, review notes, update the system, whatever. All right. Give yourself 30 minutes where you can kind of people with your own brain. Also, you can leave unscheduled space on Friday afternoons to help you wrap up the week. I do that. I usually have my team meeting on Fridays, and then I use the end of that on Fridays usually to just kind of wrap up anything I know I need to get done before we get to the next week. I also protect a full nothing gets done day sometimes. Like I'm not scheduling anything unless it's for me day. I'm also an admin day person. So every week I have an admin day. Now that day I may talk to people here and there, but I don't do anything client facing. But there's a couple days a month where I'm just like, yo, I'm working on this. Don't talk to me. Don't schedule nothing else. So that's another trick you can use. Also, remember I told you sometimes you'll get those open pockets. Like it'll just kind of like pop up for you. Like you'll be like, oh, I thought that was going to take me 2 hours, but it only took me 40 minutes. You can use that time too. Use that to catch up, use it to move your body, use it to do something creative, use it to have a dance break. So the point here is like, you don't want to see your schedule as like super rigid. It has to have a little bit of bend, right? If it's super rigid, you'll hate it. So we don't want to hate it and, stop us from using the calendar. We want to create a space that feels inviting. Time management is about efficiency, but it's also about humaning well because it allows you to intentionally make room for your humanity. And the truth is, time isn't just something we spend. It's something we shape. All right. It's something we experience. And when we shape it and experience it with intention, we make room for the life that we say that we want. You don't have to be perfect with time. I'm real good, but not perfect. Okay. So you just have to be present with time. So start where you are, build slowly, try 1 or 2 of these. If you're already really good at a couple of them, add another and see what shifts. And listen, there's no badge for doing the most. So, did you make space for what matters today? How can you do better at making space for that tomorrow? Sometimes that's the question you need to answer, and that's it. I know I said a lot in this episode, and when I do that, I always like to give y'all a takeaway because I know that some of you are trying to write all this stuff down and rewinding and all of that. I'm going to give you a download that has these steps recapped for you for easy reference. So you don't have to replay this necessarily. If you want to go grab that download, you can go over to humaningwellpodcast.com, click on resources, and it'll take you over to the Substack where you can get the resource. And as usual, thank you for listening. If this episode sparked something for you, if it was helpful for you, if you know someone who needs help with time, share it with somebody, please. Okay. Anyone who needs help reclaiming their time or who's trying to just get better organized. And if you're just now joining the podcast, please go back and listen at least to the Get Grounded capsule. It's a great foundation for everything that we tend to talk about on this pod. Until next time, be well on purpose, and I'll catch you next week.